In the shadow of ancient prophecies and biblical stories, a chilling revelation unfolds. Four harbingers of doom, known throughout history as the Four Horsemen, ride forth, their steeds pounding the earth, heralding the impending apocalypse. Conquest, war, famine, and death. Names etched into the annals of time as harbingers of devastation. The concept of the Four Horsemen is steeped in Christian myth, an ominous and powerful force portrayed in three sacred texts. In the Old Testament, their presence is foretold in the book of Zechariah and the book of Ezekiel. Yet, it is in the New Testament that John of Patmos conjures a vivid and apocalyptic vision in the book of Revelation. Within the pages of Revelation chapter 6, a sacred scroll, sealed with 7 enigmatic seals, lies in the divine grip of God. As the Lamb of God wrenches open the first 4 of these enigmatic seals, 4 eerie and otherworldly entities emerge, astride horses of different and foreboding hues, white, red, black, and pale. While the Bible names only death among these spectral riders, the others are shrouded in symbolism and mystery. The Lamb of God, a title granted to Jesus Christ, raises the profound question of whether this cataclysmic unfolding is a divine plan, an ominous consequence of human folly, or perhaps a foreboding prelude to a dark and foretold future. In the book of Revelation, one of the most iconic and enigmatic figures to emerge is the First Horseman of the Apocalypse. This harbinger of doom is often depicted riding a white horse, wielding a bow, and crowned with a victor's laurel wreath. The First Horseman symbolizes a complex blend of themes, including conquest, pestilence, and the beginning of the end times. One of the key interpretations of the First Horseman centers on the concept of conquest. The white horse he rides is traditionally associated with victory, symbolizing a period of military conquest and expansion. This interpretation suggests that the First Horseman signifies the rise of powerful empires and the spread of conflict across the world. His bow represents the tools of warfare, and his laurel wreath symbolizes the victorious and triumphant nature of the era. In this context, the First Horseman embodies the brutal, destructive force of human ambition and the relentless pursuit of power. However, there is another interpretation of the First Horseman that focuses on pestilence. Some scholars and theologians argue that the white horse and its rider represent the outbreak of diseases and plagues. The bow in this interpretation could symbolize the unseen threat of epidemics, while the laurel wreath might signify the grim victory of death over life. This interpretation aligns with the biblical notion of divine punishment and the idea that diseases and plagues can be a form of retribution for humanity's sins. In Christian eschatology, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse are seen as signs that precede the ultimate reckoning and the return of Christ. The presence of the white horseman, whether as a symbol of conquest or pestilence, underscores the notion that the end times are approaching and humanity's reckoning is drawing near. The Second Horseman of the Apocalypse is a vivid and unsettling figure. This horseman is often described as riding a fiery red horse, carrying a great sword, and being tasked with taking peace from the earth. The Second Horseman symbolizes the destructive force of war and the chaos that ensues in its wake. This horseman's red steed embodies the intense and destructive nature of armed conflict, where lives are lost and nations are torn apart. The great sword that the Second Horseman wields represents the instrument of death and devastation, highlighting the brutal and deadly aspect of warfare. The primary significance of the Second Horseman lies in the concept of war itself. The removal of peace from the earth suggests the onset of widespread conflicts, whether they be wars between nations or internal strife and discord. War is a devastating and disruptive force that can lead to loss of life, displacement, suffering, and the destruction of entire societies. The portrayal of the Second Horseman as a key figure in the apocalypse serves to emphasize the role of war in the unfolding of end-time events. The Four Horsemen are often viewed as precursors to the final judgment, and the arrival of the Second Horseman signals that the world is spiraling further into chaos and disorder. Third Horseman of the Apocalypse is a chilling and evocative figure. This horseman is described as riding a black horse and holding a pair of scales in his hand. The third horseman symbolizes famine, scarcity, and the profound suffering that accompanies the shortage of food and resources. The black horse on which the third horseman rides serves as a stark representation of the darkness and despair that accompany famine. It signifies the gloom and deprivation that befall a world in the grip of hunger and scarcity. The pair of scales held by the horseman is a symbol of the careful rationing of resources, reflecting the meticulous calculation of sustenance in times of shortage. The third horseman plays a crucial role in the apocalyptic narrative, as it underscores the consequences of human actions and the resulting suffering. In the Book of Revelation, the four horsemen are often seen as harbingers of divine judgment and the final reckoning. Famine, as embodied by the third horseman, highlights the human capacity for exploitation, greed, and mismanagement of resources, leading to catastrophic shortages and dire consequences for the vulnerable. The fourth horseman of the apocalypse is a haunting and iconic figure. This horseman is described as riding a pale or ashen horse and is often referred to as death. The fourth horseman symbolizes death, mortality, and the finality of life, serving as a grim reminder of the inescapable nature of our own mortality. The ashen or pale horse represents the sickly and lifeless color associated with death. It stands in stark contrast to the previous horseman's colors, emphasizing the notion of decay and the end of life. The fourth horseman is not depicted carrying any weapons or implements. Instead, the rider himself represents death as an unstoppable force. The fourth horseman plays a pivotal role in the apocalyptic narrative, marking the culmination of the four horsemen's ride. In the Book of Revelation, these horsemen are often seen as precursors to divine judgment and the final reckoning. Death, as the ultimate and inescapable destiny of all living things, serves as a powerful symbol of the consequences of human actions, the impermanence of life, and the ultimate accountability for one's deeds. In the profound symbolism of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, we find a powerful narrative that transcends time and resonates with the human condition. They serve as a timeless reminder of the consequences of human actions, the enduring struggles of our history, and the inescapable reality of mortality. The four horsemen bring both warning and contemplation, urging us to reflect on the choices we make and the legacies we leave. In the end, they compel us to seek understanding, peace, and empathy in a world that is sometimes tumultuous and uncertain.